Good afternoon, Mindcrafters, and welcome back. I keep forgetting to say or ask, request to hit that subscribe button. I get so excited I kind of skip over all that stuff. But if you're liking these videos, and also you can leave me tips in the comment part there, but please subscribe, tap dance around the like and hit subscribe. So let's go, we're off. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and we are going to talk today about actually what the purpose of these videos is. And I feel like my whole mission here is to help you become the boss of your brain, because the rest of it doesn't matter without this. People can say, oh, you are what you eat. We're not dismissing nutrition, okay, but without the brain there is nothing. Your relationships, work life, social life, service that you're doing for anyone else, none of it matters. Why? Because until we get a grip on our thoughts, we cannot be our best selves, which means we cannot live our best lives, which means we're not walking around fulfilled, at least not we're not maxing out on that. There is no way, because our thoughts literally dictate how we feel. And there are so many people walking around out there who just aren't getting that. And they're walking around allowing the thoughts to just be in charge. So again, we'll say this over, and then we're going to move into the value thing, because that's where we're going to go next. Is there are two choices with this in life. Sorry about the bugs. I'm going to be doing this because they're just bugs. And so here's the thing. There are two choices as far as becoming the boss of your brain. You can control your thoughts, or your thoughts can control you. And which is more pleasant? And I think a lot of people don't realize, because so many of us, so much of our day, sadly, are walking around on autopilot, just on autopilot, like zoned out. And the thing with that too is that the only experiences that make it to long-term memory, which is the goal, right? Making memories, that's who we are, is all that, is what we are actually attenuating to. So when we're walking around out of it, in the zone, on autopilot, very little, if any, of that is making it into permanency, long-term memory. So that's the other thing that we need to pay attention to. And so, very important to realize how this works, because if we're thinking anxious and fearful thoughts, we're going to feel anxious and fearful. It's just how it is, and it can be real or not. The brain does not know the difference. And so this is also important to sort of be mindful of. Another word I really love, and mindfulness is certainly a lifestyle, is part of my life, a large part of my lifestyle actually. It's just so important to really get this, and to challenge these thoughts, because there are many put together grown-ups I know out there in the world, sort of not fact-checking. And so these monkey mind thoughts just chatter. I think of howler monkeys, because they're just loud and little and loud and zipping around. And when we don't fact check, we just kind of passively incorporate whatever that chatter is into our belief system eventually. But also we're just walking around not in a good mood, because we let all this stuff just go right through us, and that is just not how I want to live my life, for sure. We need to, if we want to live deliberately, it all starts with practicing thought control. And of course, what we practice, we inevitably get good at. True for anything, right? Playing the violin, skiing, one of my favorites, definitely one of my favorites. Learning Italian, robbing banks, whatever we practice, there goes Giovanni, hi puppy, we get better at. And people often, are not doing this. And so they walk around thinking that their thoughts are who they are, which is incorrect, and that their feelings are facts. And then this leads to the bigger problem, because so many people in this day and age are not listening to each other anymore. It's just their opinion is the truth and facts for all people, and that leads to that problem too. So it's big, it's huge. And if we take it a step further, we also last time talked about how shame is just a destroyer, such a roadblock to living our most authentic life. And practicing thought control and learning to become the boss of your brain leads to being able to see your own value. Because think of that, and I like to call the unconscious the vault. I refer to the unconscious as the vault, because when we're walking around on autopilot, we could just be seeing something. We could literally be in the middle of some town or city and just on autopilot, noticing whatever, which pulls something out of the vault of which we're unaware, some old memory, some old something, who said what, whatever, and all of a sudden we're back in that place. We're back in that place, and we just allow it to happen. And meanwhile, very valuable life minutes are circling the drain. So that is the number one thing that we want to talk about right now. And also, when we have these thoughts, for me, the shame thing is so visceral. We talked about it. I actually feel it like my chest area. Some people, it's more the stomach. It can be both. It's so important to really question that. And I tell you, I've been doing work on myself for a very long time, and it's still occasionally I'll get like a wave of it, and I'm thinking, where's that coming from? And here's the thing: the more you practice thought control, the more you're aware of shame, the more you're aware of what's going on in your hard drive. And it's so important to be aware of what's going on in your hard drive, because that's the only way you can kind of dismiss what's not working for you and bring in new stuff into your life, new changes, new people, new experiences, is when we kind of get rid of some of the old stuff. It's kind of like feng shuiing the mind, kind of like you would a spring closet. Get rid of all the stuff you have no more use for, which in our context is we don't have any use for what Aunt so-and-so used to say when she came over for Christmas or Hanukkah every year that wasn't nice. We got to clear out stuff we just have no more use for, which also includes our stories. We have stories about ourselves that we just keep and we identify with as being part of our identity that we just really may not have a use for anymore. And I know with, I don't mind sharing one. I've kind of been out there with the world anyway, and that's fine with me as long as it, I'm a vehicle humbly a vehicle of healing for people. I have no problem sharing it. So for years, directly due to my ADHD, because I still work on it constantly, or manage it, is that the best way to say it? Yeah. Manage my impulsive stuff because it's in my wiring, so it's not going away. I just have to be aware. And in the earlier part of our marriage, which I shared on a TED Talk actually about a year and a half ago, which is loads of fun, very nice people, I shared about how the impulsivity thing manifested with impulse buying when my husband and I were early on. It really just caused a lot of problems, and I realized way after the fact, because this is no longer true, worked on it, done, over, not a part of my storyline. It hasn't been for a decade and a half at least. And so I realized sort of recently that I was still, even though so much healing had happened, over it, done, awareness, all that stuff, I was still hanging on to that story and all the negative stuff that I heard, especially from my dad, just shaming horrible things about, being defective, and why don't you grow up, and, your marriage is going to be all this just negative, bad, a litany of things that was wrong with me. And I don't need to hang on to that anymore. It's just so far over. And I'm actually very good with money now, and it's just not an issue. So that's just my example. I don't mind very vulnerably expressing that, because if it helps you, great. And if you're still working on something too, even if you're not kind of completely past it, because sometimes we, just like with my fast mind, I'm constantly managing it. If you're way better at whatever your story was than now than you were before, you still don't need it. You can get rid of that and incorporate the new story where you've gotten, for the most part, you've gotten a grip on whatever it is, and bring that into your life and dismiss all that old shaming crap, because all it does is get in the way of you really acknowledging, coming into this place where you can really see your authentic self. So because we talked about it last time too, that everyone's authentic self, it's there. And what happens is, we're born feeling whole and complete, and then stuff happens, right? However, the authentic self is still there. And I think the more we're on autopilot, the more she slides into the back seat, but she's still there. And when we start to practice thought control, only allowing in, it doesn't mean dismissing the truth, just being clear there, okay? But really being on it with what we're allowing to be in the most precious organ that there is, and really managing that, only then can we really start to see our own value And once we see our own value, let me just tell you, what a charge. Because, like we said also a couple times ago, wherever we are with that, with our value, we're putting it out there. You've heard that cliche, putting it out there. So basically, if someone is not feeling worthy, whether you're aware of it or not, you're leaking that out of your pores. Because and that is how people are going to treat you. And so it's just true. Even like well-meaning people, they might not be unkind to you per se, though it definitely invites that. I'm thinking of like codependency and people dating jerks and stuff like that. It definitely invites that. But even like a good person might very unknowingly, unconsciously not have you in the running for a promotion or a new job, just because it's not, they're not even thinking about it, because it's just, you're just spewing it out of your pores. So the becoming the boss of your brain thing not only helps us be less anxious, less depressed. Those are obviously complicated situations, I'm saying that. However, there is nowhere to go but up with learning how to practice thought control and becoming the boss of your brain. It's the number one, because what goes in does generally not come out without some help. And so, especially if it's coming from the vault. So this is why it's very, very important to challenge the monkey chatter, thought chatter, and really do your own little archaeological dig on that to see where it's coming from. Because I can't say enough about the value thing. And what's also cool is once you're able to better see your own true value and your authentic self returns to power, you can then spread that love and positivity. It's just, it doesn't even take effort. That will ooze out of your pores too, because positivity attracts more positivity. It's true. You've heard the saying, misery loves company, right? Okay, well, that's not true either. Misery loves miserable company. That's the truth. Negative Nellies attract each other. Well, that's also true for us good vibes. And positivity attracts more positivity. Sorry about the wind here, which looks like I might have to cut this off, because when it gets windy, I know it gets annoying. Okay, so we will continue. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the deep woods in northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.